2007, I began making a trilogy of handmade, micro-budgeted films. The goal was to have more fun while making a film, but be just as polished and professional as any other film that was not so handmade. One of the keys to having fun was to come up with a great off-the-shelf idea for gear that you could fabricate with a simple visit to Home Depot or your neighborhood grip supply store. One of my digital rules demanded that I do not rent any equipment that would force me to take out a big insurance policy to indemnify the gear. And since I owned the cameras and some rudimentary lighting stuff already, that left me to the sound department. I want to show you now the evolution of my micro-budget Soundcart and how far it's come over the last decade, encompassing 4 feature films. Route 30 was the first film in my trilogy of backwoods comedies. Since my DP, Keith Duggan, had his orders to keep his camera and lighting gear to one small minivan or SUV, it was up to me to build my first rolling Soundcart that captured the spirit of the No Frills movie. Here's what Soundcart beta version looked like. A small, lightweight Home Depot hand truck with a plastic Staples office supply file bin zip-tied to the frame. This cart turned out to be a very good first version. It was light, very portable, and could be lifted by one guy into the minivan. Some of the guest sound mixers on this film were my pals Devin DeLibero, Chip Bulsick, Daryl Vaught, and one day cast member Dave Cowgill, who ironically would craft Soundcart 3.0 a decade later for my latest film, The Father and the Bear. Let's move along to Route 32, which was shot 3 years later in the bitter winter of 2010. Back to South Central Pennsylvania we went to continue the hijinks of the now beloved and cultish characters from the first film. For 2, I wanted to step up the quality and function of the Soundcart, which was dubbed Soundcart 2.0, and ended up being used for 2 films total. Let's take a look at some of the improvements. New, heavier-duty hand truck from Film Tools in Burbank with pneumatic tires. I refreshed the Staples bin, and this time raised it higher so I could put a die-hard battery below for onboard power. We shot some night for night in this one. New plug-in power strip mounted to the back, oak top for the mixer, and the beginnings of the use of more wireless mics. A fine swivel cup holder was added to the cart for the mixer's convenience. Upgrades to the sound kit also included a Zoom H4n for recording. As much as I like direct sound to the camera, the tethering aspect we experienced in Part 1 made this update a necessity. Plus, now that there was software that sunk your dailies for you via waveform, it made it easier. I also added an umbrella for weather protection. The big kind for golfing, and boy did that ever come in handy. On Route 33, I kept adding stuff to this design, and we went full wireless. My sound mixer Patrick could roll around and park himself wherever he wanted near the set and get great sound via the Sennheiser system I owned. But let's face it, this cart was long in the tooth. The plastic was just not fun, the drawers weren't stable. I needed something stronger and more durable, and not only that, I wanted to be really happy every time I looked over at Patrick and saw how stylish he looked while mixing. Enter Soundcart 3.0. I was gearing up to shoot my next handmade film in the summer of 2015, and I wanted the next Soundcart to be awesome. Here's what I most needed in the new rig. More storage, less clutter, USB chargers for on-set mobile devices, better boom holder, and something just a little classier. As it turns out, one of my oldest friends and lead actor in the trilogy happens to be a master carpenter and makes crazy great furniture right out of his garage. I felt despite the weight implications, I needed to have something more solid that would last for the next 5 films and beyond. So I challenged Dave Cowgill to create the backbone of Soundcart 3.0, the ultimate chest of drawers. Using the same Film Tools dolly, I headed over to Dave's to get him started on the project.
These plastic cheap-ass Bed Bath & Beyond little shelves. So we're going to replace those. We tore those out and are going to replace it with a beautiful wood custom-made cabinet with several drawers in there for all the sound items.
3.0 turned out to be the Cadillac of micro-budgeted guerrilla gear, and it evoked quite a reaction from the rest of the crew, especially Keith Duggan, the DP, who wished I'd made him a cart for the camera department. Well, when the camera department gets its gear down to the size of the sound department, maybe I will. Let's look back at the progression of this fun little cart. Beta, 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. As you can see, you can make pretty much anything out of stuff you see at Lowe's or Home Depot. And I'm happy to say that I'll be using my African mahogany with zebra wood inlay sound cart for many more films to come.